Good morning. Hey, welcome back. Kind of feels weird doing a video after seeing you guys face to face 2 days this week. And I have to tell you, you guys have no idea on how tickled pink I am that I'm able to get in front of a classroom again and do the things that we're doing. 14, 15 months of not being able to do that. After doing it almost every day, because I teach in the summer, fall, spring, since 1997, until I got here at Bergen in 1999, and then ever since. So not being able to get in front of a classroom for 15 months, it's just been absolutely crazy. So I've had a great time so far this semester. Really a good time. But now I come at you with a video to talk a little bit about that kind of communication where the verbal is not necessary. And that, of course, is nonverbal communication, where no words need to be spoken, and yet the messages are not only sent, received, but also understood. For example, one of the things they talk about are things called emblems. Now, emblems are nonverbal body movements that have a direct verbal translation. So, for example, that great movie Top Gun from the 80s with Tom Cruise. I know they just did the sequel recently. And, of course, he'll be getting in the jet. He's ready to go shoot down the Soviet MiGs. And, the guys down there say, "You ready to go, Mav?" And he goes, "Dun, dun, dun, dun." And, of course, all he has to do is that thumbs up, and that means he's ready to go or he's okay. No words need to be said. Or maybe if you're in the distance and somebody is saying something to you, and maybe they can't hear you, they don't want to shout out, "What?" Or they might just go. And, of course, obviously that means they can't hear you. This would also be an emblem. But my favorite happens to be one that I always thought only had one translation. But it seems there are several verbal translations to this particular emblem now. Now, the one I'm talking about, I go back to when I was a kid growing up, and one of my favorite all-time stand-up comics was the late, great Rodney Dangerfield. And Rodney Dangerfield's whole shtick was that he gets no respect. No respect. I got no respect at all. And he would do his routine. And then at the end of his routine, what he would say is, he would say, "You know what, just one time. I want you to just say, you know what, Rodney, you're okay, man. You're okay. And just give me one of these, And, of course, this always meant, okay, hey, okay. Eddie Murphy, in one of his biggest box office hits of all time, Beverly Hills Cop, gives one of these, okay, when they catch the bad guys. So I'm talking about this in class one year here at Bergen, and there's a young lady in the back who's from South America, hasn't said a word yet all semester. She suddenly raises her hand up and says, "That doesn't mean okay, and you do that to my brother, he's going to cut you." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Okay, this means okay." And then she went on to talk about it, and I found out that in South America, and especially some parts of Eastern Europe, this has a very different meaning. And I should have realized that because a favorite movie of mine, which runs like once a month on TNT or on TBS on a Saturday, is a movie called Mr. Holland's Opus. It's from 1995. Now, for those who don't know the movie, it's about a 30-year-old guy who's in a band. Well, the band breaks up. Now, this guy's 30 years old. He's got a new wife who's pregnant. He needs a job. So he decides in 1965, at 30 years old, to take a job as a high school music teacher. All the while thinking, I'll just do this for a couple of years, and then I can work on my music, and I'll eventually get back on the road. Well, of course, he ends up staying for 30 years as this high school music teacher. Well, one of the real struggles in the film is the fact that his son, his only child who's born, now this is a guy who music is his entire life. His son, his only child, is born deaf. So now he feels he can never share all of his great desire with his own son. So now it's 15 years in. His son is 15 years old. And the father comes home and he's really depressed. And the son signs to him. He says, "Well, what's the matter?" And the father said, he signed, "Someone died today." And the son's like, "Oh." And he's like, No, it's not funny. It's not funny. Well, the son says, "Well, who died?" And then he signs John Lennon. You wouldn't understand. So as the father goes into the house, the son immediately comes right after him, slams the door, and then starts signing like crazy. And the father's like, "Too fast, honey, translate for me." So the wife now starts to translate. And the son is like, who do you think? You think I don't know who John Lennon is? You think I don't know who the Beatles are? You don't think I don't know what this means to you? You're my father. I know what you do for a living. I know how music is important to you. What, because I'm deaf I don't know this? And as he's finishing his rant, the son signs this and then walks out. So the father, now feeling pretty bad, looks at his wife and says, what does this mean? And she says, asshole! So I'm like, oh, I can't believe this. Like, I didn't realize that this young lady was saying something that I kind of already knew and just didn't realize. And then, of course, recently, okay, asshole, and then now this, I guess, means KKK? I don't know. I just found this out recently. So it's like one emblem, no matter how you turn your wrist, could have a very different translation without any words being spoken. But now there are nonverbal body movements that actually accompany a verbal message and actually help to paint a picture of your verbal message. And what these are called illustrators. Okay? Now, some of you might have seen someone using illustrators this morning. If you happen to get up and let's say if you happen to turn on the local news just to see what the traffic or weather situation is like, typically that weather person's in front of the map and they're doing everything but the Macarena. I mean, they just can't tell you what the weather is. They're going to have to describe it to you about this cold front, this warm front, especially if a storm's coming in. They will go ahead and describe the entire thing using their hands and their nonverbal body movements. All right? I'll give you another example. Illustrators. Great example. As the weather's getting beautiful now, you know anybody who goes fishing? When they come back from a good fishing trip, how do they describe it? They never just use their mouth. They got, oh man, there was this 70-pound tuna, like this, right off of the coast of Belmar. And I mean, I fought this thing for like 20 minutes. Absolutely. Somebody who's had a very good fishing trip must use illustrators to describe it. Now, one of my favorite parts of nonverbal communication deals with the nonverbal way we communicate based on our use of space. And what that's referred to as is proxemics. That's where the word proximity comes from. The study of proxemics is the study of how we communicate based on our use of space. Now, you're probably looking at me like, well, what the hell is he talking about? Communication, use of space, what does that mean? I'll give you a great example. An example I'm sure a lot of you know. So let's say you're going to work, you're going to school, you got a bag, okay? And let's say you're taking the bus. So now you get on the bus, got two empty chairs here. So you go ahead and you go to the one near the window, and you take your bag, and you put it on the other seat. Now, what are you going to do now? You're going to put your headphones in, you're going to look out the window, maybe open a book or a magazine, or especially play Angry Birds on your phone. But you're not looking at anybody who's coming on the bus. Yet, aren't they all receiving a message from you? Absolutely. Even though you're verbally not saying it, here's the message these people are getting as they get on the bus. I don't want none of you sitting next to me. You see my bag here? That means do not sit next to me. You smell, your breath is horrible, you're sweating too much, stay away from here. Now, you don't say that, but that's actually what is coming across. Now, the funny part is, have you ever seen somebody who does that? There's no other seats in the bus, so you have to say to them, excuse me, could you move your bag? Think they're annoyed that you have to take their seat? Absolutely. I'll give you another example of proxemics that I used to like. I haven't used one in a long time, but I used to always have to use a laundromat. And whenever you go into a laundromat, especially where there are folding tables, okay, when someone wants the best folding table in the best area, they'll go to that folding table after their clothes go in the dryer, and then they'll put their detergent in one corner, their bleach in one corner, their cigarette case in this corner, and their People magazine in this corner. What have they done? Well, in your textbook, they talk about this. It's called territoriality, or marking your territory. And I've always seen that in laundromats especially, where people mark their territory to make sure you don't get into their space. Now, the funny thing is, once they fold all their clothes, put them in the car, territoriality's gone. You can have that space all you want. It's all yours. I don't care about it anymore. But during that time, they will fight you like they're fighting for their last grain of salt to make sure you don't get into their space. All right? And that's proxemics. But another way we non-verbally communicate, based on our use of time, is called chronemics. Okay? For example, I'm going to pick on the ladies just for a second. Ladies, your boyfriend says he's going to pick you up at 6 o'clock. He doesn't show up till 7:20. What's the message you're receiving from him non-verbally? Either A, you're going to say, where have you been? Or with some ladies who don't take too kindly, more than likely every gift he's ever gotten for you, you put out on the front lawn. I'm sorry, I don't mean to pick on I don't mean to pick on those guys either who happen to be late. And of course, it's always funny. The guys will come up with some excuse. It's like, no, you don't understand. Like, I was on Route 46 by Teterboro, and the plane missed the runway and landed on Route 46. And then when the pilot got out, they said, my wife's having a baby, and I had to help deliver this baby on Route 46, and that's why I'm late. It doesn't matter, does it? It doesn't matter. I'm not a priority to you. So, I'm just kidding. I'm just saying, I've actually heard stories like that before. The one about the gifts go... A female student said that several years ago. If he's an hour late and didn't even text me, all his stuff's going out on the lawn. All right, we're going to go ahead and stop right there. As you can see, attached to this is the study guide for your exam, which you will take first thing on Monday morning. Now, I call it an exam. It's more like a glorified quiz. It's something that covers these first 5 chapters. And just a little background. The reason why we don't do the intercultural chapter is 2 reasons. Number 1, on and off, but mostly on. I've been using the same textbook since 1997. Only recently with this 13th edition did he put the intercultural chapter in, and it's just 1 chapter. But 2, the other reason why I don't touch it is if, as you're here at Bergen, you decide you want to take a diversity course you're required to have a diversity course. Intercultural communication, it's right there with Professor Costa. So that's why I don't even dive into the chapter that they have. So you have the other 5 chapters. I provided the terms that I feel are the most important, all right? So you want to study those terms, and then you'll have your exam. Now, as you can see, it's going to be multiple choice. There's going to be fill in the blank with a word bank, all right? So make sure you study those terms. Make sure you know what those 5 stages are, which they're listed on your study guide, the 5 stages of listening. And we will see you Monday morning. We'll probably take about a half hour or so for the exam. Well, we'll take as long as you need. I don't think it'll take more than a half hour, but if it does, that's fine. We'll wait. Also, one thing I did want to say, unrelated to the exam, but for the rest of the semester, there are no facilities open on campus. I don't even think we have access to vending machines. So please, you see, every one of you has a huge table to yourselves. Bring anything that you want to bring, okay? I'm not going to stop you, especially since you're not anywhere near any equipment except your own. So it's not like if you spill something, it'll ruin something to the schools. But absolutely, bring anything you want to bring, food, drink, whatever you want. There's nothing at the school that's open, and like I said, I don't even know there's even access to vending machines. All right? All right, so Monday morning, we'll see you. You got your study guide, and I hope you have a terrific weekend.